Welcome everyone, I'm Bethany Schunn, the plant manager at Cardinal Plant, located in Brilliant, Ohio. I'm sure many have been there or toured. So today we're going to talk about, the title is about the performance path, but what I really wanted to talk about were some updates. A lot of people have asked about updates on Cardinal. Last time I spoke was at one of the summer conferences, not last summer, but in 2024. So I tried to get some highlights since then that's been going on, some initiatives we've been doing, and also I wanted to talk about some of the winter activities because as everyone knows, we've had a lot of winter weather and how that's affected us at the plant. So when I was preparing this presentation, I was trying to think how to format this and how to kind of tie it all together. So what I did was I took our three, let me see here if that comes up yet. Our three core values, of course, is safety, environmental responsibility, and energy production. And also I wanted to tie financials into it because that's obviously a large part as well. So we're going to talk a little bit first on safety, some of our human performance initiatives that we've had going on since the beginning of 2024 and have since continued, an update on our standard work. And then on environmental, we're going to talk about some current major projects that are going on. There's a lot of environmental rules that are upcoming, and at Cardinal, we've had to put some projects in place, large-scale projects, to comply with those. So I'll talk about that. We also have some updates on Unit 3 and the capability. Some might have known that we've had some issues that we weren't able to get to full load. We've since resolved that, and I'll tell you how that we got to that point. Also the winter operations, so we can talk about the January and February of this year, some of the what was going on at Cardinal then. And then finally, we want to talk about byproduct sales and some material handling savings for the financial part. So we'll start off with human performance. So I don't know if we talked about this or not in the summer conference of 24, but in 24 we had a lot of events, unfortunate events that I tied to as human performance events. So, as you see on the screen, we had 8 lost revenue events. That's typically a unit trip. We had 2 environmental events that reported, and we had to report to the EPA, and then 1 DART or a safety injury. So from those events, and I'm not going to go through each one, but a common denominator was human performance. It's something, it was an accident, it was an operator error, it was something, that wasn't equipment tied, but more human tied. So in 2024, towards the end, we said, we got to do something. We got to figure out what we're going to do to improve. Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone knows that. So how can we, as a plant, talk to our employees, contractors, et cetera, to make sure that we kind of overcome that. So what we did is we started, well, I'll show you on the next slide here. But I will say in 2025, it did reduce. We only had 1 lost revenue event, a unit trip, 1 safety injury due to human performance, and then a potential unit trip. And the reason I put that potential unit trip on there is I like that because someone actually reported that to us as a human performance event. So, we want to keep open, transparent communication, and we've been talking about human performance and some of our initiatives, which I'll show you on the next slide, but a team leader reported that to us and said, hey, he said, last night we almost tripped the unit, and this is why, and it was a human performance thing, which I really thought was good because, we want people to open up and because if we don't know about it or we don't hear about it, how can we improve on that? So from that event, we were able to put some things in place so that it won't happen again. So that to me was a really big one that, there could be a ton of them going on and we don't know about it because people are hiding them or, but this I think was starting to kind of transform the culture to have people open up a little bit more. So what did we do? Well, we perform root cause, obviously, on all of these events. So we have a root cause, I guess I should say template kind of, and when we initiate a root cause. So it could be a unit trip, it could be a curtailment of so many megawatts, an environmental event, a DART injury. So there's numerous things that kind of trigger a root cause. So when we do a root cause, we have a subject matter expert kind of fill out a standard work template that we created, and then they get all the information. We gather in a room with some of the key people. It could be hourly employees, it could be salary employees, but we go down through the events and develop action items going forward. So what do we need to do to prevent this from happening again? Because if it happened on Tuesday of last week. It could happen on Thursday of next week. So we want to make sure that we are trying to get better. So that's the first thing. That's led usually by our standard work team, which we'll talk about. The next thing is we've upgraded our standard work. So a lot of times when we have an event, we go back to what we call our standard work, or kind of our task analysis. And we say, hey, maybe this isn't correct. Like, maybe we need to go back and fix this. So we started doing that. We started working on labeling at the plant. The plant's over 50 years old, and there's a lot of maybe labels that need to be updated. So our operations excellence team started updating labels, started doing more visual management. So when the operators are in the control room, they're actually touching things and vocalizing things instead of just pressing them. We got to make sure we're very cognizant of what we're doing. We have pre and post job briefs. So each supervisor has they had a standard template that they went through, but what we did was we made it more department specific. So maintenance has a certain one now, operations has one, our INC department. So it made it more tied to human performance, and how is this job that you're going to be working on, what kind of human performance tools should we be looking at? Should we stop? Is there a critical point? Is there a point of no return? So we started updating that. Alarm management, we actually put a team together, and we have millions and millions of alarms in the control room. And what happens when you get a lot of alarms? Sometimes they become nuisance alarms, and you don't pay attention to them anymore. So this team started really focusing on what are the critical alarms. So what can we keep as a priority 1? What can maybe go to a priority 3? So they've whittled through so many alarms, and it's a team of about 4 or 5 guys in different disciplines. We have some engineers, we have some of our DCS guys on it, our operators. So that's been ongoing. And it's still a work in progress, but it's definitely cut back on a lot of these nuisance alarms, we should say. We've started creating what we call HPIBs, Human Performance Incident Briefs. So when we have a human performance event, we are creating one of these, kind of like, what happened, what are we doing to fix it, and we send it out to everybody. We do that for safety events, and we also do it for environmental, so we thought we should probably do it for human performance. And we also have a clock reset, we should say. So now we're tracking the days, it's been so many days since a human performance event, et cetera. The other thing is, this was a big one. We myself and a few of my direct reports went to a training, actually at our OEC office last May, and there was a trainer, and he just talked about basic human performance tools. And I thought, this is a really good training that we could implement to our plant, because some people have come in new, don't even know what human performance, what is STOP, what is stop, think, act, review, what is TV star, touch, vocalize, stop, think, act, review, what is a peer review, et cetera. So we scheduled training for all of our salaried employees. They went through that last year, and actually here in the next few weeks, we're doing it for all of our hourly employees. So I think that'll be really good. Myself, I actually am working with one of our contractors, and I have my core leadership team. We also went through a human performance class just a couple weeks ago based on behavior, and how are you shaping behavior? How are, with not just like the behaviors, but the outcomes of them, and how are you following up with people on some of these things. So that was a really good class as well, and so that just happened a few weeks ago. And I even made my team, I think I called it Bethany's Book Club, but I made them read a book on human performance and how do we get better as a plant. So we're trying to do small things like that just to keep human performance as kind of our initiative to make sure that we don't have these events happen that could have been prevented. So. Let's see. Communication, HPI tool. We have a newsletter every month, so our safety supervisor puts in a new human performance tool. We also send printouts out and talk with it about the crews. And I tell our people, I think the biggest thing is when you're out and about. You got to have a presence out there, and you have to talk to the people and bring up these tools. So I'll be in the control room, and I'll hear some 3-way communication going. I'll be like, oh, good, nice job on your 3-way communication. So we have to just keep driving that as a leadership team. So, and especially out in the field, it's not just sending out the emails and the communication, it's really being out there and interacting with the employees. So So it's a work in progress. It's not perfect yet, but I will say that we have, knock on wood, less events, but we got to keep driving it and keep getting better at it. So that's still a work. So that's one of our big things that happened since I last talked to you. And then standard work, as I mentioned before, I think in our last presentation, we had this big initiative in 2022. We put a standard work team together. We had a lot of procedures at Cardinal, but they were in multiple formats, and they were in different file folders. And we said, no, we gotta fix this. So the standard work team developed a new template. We have it all on SharePoint. It's going very good. So from 22 to 25, we've produced 1,155 standard work procedures, new ones. And in 2025 alone, 180 were created. 1,017 were actually used because we track the usage. We want to make sure people are using them. We're not just creating them. And we have our standard work team audits them. So we wanted to audit them to make sure, things change. Sometimes like a task change. So we want to make sure we have the most updated. So that's been going very well. That's an example of one of our templates there. So it makes it nice because we have a set thing. If someone goes out to work on a job, the supervisor says, well, let's see if there's standard work with it. So that's been working out really well. So on the environmental projects, I know a lot of people have asked, I even talked to some people last night about what's going on at Cardinal and what with all these environmental rules. Well, so what's going on right now is this bioreactor. And it started in 2023. It's actually going to be commissioned here very, very soon. We've had a lot of people working on it. And what we did was we actually utilized an old warehouse, which saved a lot of money and probably space, which is right behind, I'm afraid to use this pointer. I don't know if it, oh gosh. Okay, sorry. Well, we just won't point. But anyways, the warehouse is behind those big, tall, those are called fluidized bed reactors. So what this is for is it's got to treat our effluent. It leaves our wastewater treatment, but before it goes to the river. So this does like selenium, mercury, arsenic, nitrite. So there's a lot that goes into this. I took a tour out there recently because it's been a while since I've been out there, and the inside of that warehouse is just, there's just stuff everywhere. It's a very large process. So I'll show some pictures there. So we have some filters, skids, some vessels, a lot of stuff that goes on, and that's all just to discharge to the river, so that we can get rid of those, the mercury, selenium, arsenic, et cetera. So that is going to be commissioned here in just a few short weeks. And everyone's been working really hard, so that's kind of been the focus right now for a lot of our key players. The other one that is not yet, but it's coming up, is we want to talk about this 316B. So this is an environmental rule under the Clean Water Act, and it is to prevent essentially fish or aquatic organisms from entering the circulating water. So these traveling water screens collect the fish in a fish trough, and then we release them. So it's also a very expensive project. The one I just talked about, the bioreactor, is about $36 million. This one is about $22 million, and it'll be installed in units 1 and 2. We're actually getting ready to install one of the screens here coming up in one of our outages, but there's multiple screens, so this is just kind of the start of it. So that's a picture of one of them. That was at the shop. That's not at our plant, but yeah, so that's our next big environmental project because we need to do that for the Clean Water Act to save the fish. Okay, so let's get into the exciting stuff. So Unit 3, we had some issues with Unit 3, with air heater issues, as all may have known, and we weren't able to get to full load. We were derated for about 50 megawatts, sometimes more. And we noticed around 2022 that we started getting what we call high differential pressure in our air heaters. So, what caused that? Well, there was some stuff with direct urea. We had to work out some hydrated lime. And then we think the major cause was during Winter Storm Elliott, we lost our glycol heating, which increases our exit gas temperature. So without that, you decrease the exit gas temperature. And we think that over time that started condensing and getting on our air heaters. So you don't notice it right away, but after time we noticed that these differentials kept coming up. So what we did in the spring of 25 is we acid washed all these baskets. There's a lot of baskets, like 1,400 baskets. And we also performed a high pressure wash. And so it did help. It did for a little while, but then the differentials kept climbing back up and climbing back up. So that's a picture right there of our air heater behind all the scaffolding. And I'll show you what we did end up doing. So in fall, just this past fall, we decided, hey, we're going to change these baskets. We've tried cleaning. We have what we call just air heater washes. It wasn't helping, or it was helping for a short period. So we decided to change all these baskets. A very large project, expensive project, and it's very tedious. They had a very big trolley system going up. They had to remove all these baskets, get them down to the ground, bring the new ones up. And like it says here, it's a total of 1,400 baskets. So there's two different sides. So there's 704 on each side. And they're big baskets. And so this was a project that it went extraordinarily well, which is good. We had very good supervision on it. The contractors were great. We had the same group of people. So this, to me, was a success. We actually returned the unit early, too, as well. So that's a picture of the plugged baskets on the left. And then the new ones on the left side of that picture are the new baskets. So definitely a lot cleaner. And you can see, I don't know if you can see in that picture, but we actually lowered the baskets by 10 inches to help with the exit gas temperature. So like I said, the new ones are on the left. They go down a little bit lower. But the improvements, here's where you can see the improvements are, so this is a pie graph, and if you look at the yellow, on the left-hand side is pre-outage, in the middle is outage, and the right-hand side is post-outage. The yellow is the differential, so you can see how high the differential was prior to the outage, then after the outage, how much lower it is. So, and then also our load is on there as well. But yeah, so that it definitely has stayed, that definitely was a turning point, was changing these baskets. I did want to, let me go back one slide. We have, I thought I had it on here, but wait, let me see. Did I have it on there? Oh yeah, I did say that we got it back 9 days early. So that really helped because we came back early. You know, we were able to get online sooner, so that was a good thing. And like I said, we had a really good team on that project, so that helped. But and we got back to 620 megawatts, so that was really great. Okay. All right, so winter operations. If anyone can see that picture, it's really impressive. It's the side of our JBR. We had a leak, a wash valve leak, and it was so cold during that week that you can see it like frozen. It's like a big icicle there. So it was barricaded off on the bottom, but you can't see the barricade. But so we had, well, let's talk about January first. So January wasn't quite as bad, cold at the beginning of January. We had some unit outages. Unit 1, we came out on an outage, and then we had some issues with our control valves. Those are for our turbine, and they had to get shipped away to get fixed. So that unit was out for quite a bit of time in January. Units 2 and 3, they did pretty well. We had 1 tube leak on unit 2, and then we actually had a couple hot spots on our GSU that we had to take the unit out, but it was a pretty quick turnaround. So, so that was the beginning of January. Year didn't start off great, but it's getting better. So then we got to January 24th, which was, you know, the big winter storm Fern, as they call it. Very cold weather out. So we had all sorts of alerts from PJM, as you all are aware. You know, we had the cold weather alert, we had the cold weather advisory, we had maintenance recall, we had conservative operations, just every alert known to man. Very cold week. Unit 1 started off well. And then we had a high inboard temperature on a high temperature on our inboard bearing. We had to take one of the air heaters out, so unit 1 was curtailed. Units 2 and 3, they were full load capable, so that was good. And we actually got unit 1 back a little bit sooner than what we thought. We had to ship this bearing out, so we were able to get it back about midweek. So AEP was happy about that. But yeah, so you know, it was really cold out there. You know, these guys are working in really bad conditions. But not just cold, we were worried about our fuel source because of the river. You know, the river is getting frozen. So as you can see here, here's a picture I took. I was up on top of the unit, and that is that's the Ohio River. I think that was, I don't know, it was early that week. And so, you know, you can see the temperatures dropped. Everyone knows that it was a very long-term cold spell. What we were concerned was getting coal. So most of our coal is barged. Some of the barge lines were not able to get to Cardinal because some of the locks were closed. So we were able to we have one supplier, Tunnel Ridge, very close to the plant, and they were able to get coal to us. Now, we always have backup coal, but you don't want to not have a source. So there was like an open channel that they kept coming to the plant, and we got coal from them. And then the other challenge we encountered was getting gypsum out. So, you know, with gypsum, we have this dome, but it only holds so much. So you got to get it out of the dome, or you have to landfill it, which is pretty expensive so we didn't want to landfill it. So we couldn't get, none of the gypsum barges were coming in. We were like, they weren't coming in. They weren't able to come in. So we had to get trucks in. So we got a lot of trucks, about 100 trucks a day, trying to get this gypsum out of there just so we didn't have to like landfill it and have this extra cost. So that was successful, and it was a rough week. But you know, we have a really good, and I credit our operations team, winterization practices. We start in September. I think we mentioned it at one of these other meetings, and we're very diligent on, especially during extreme weather. So they do a great job. All the departments do it, but I should say operations kind of leads it, and so we try to get everything winter ready, you know, before winter. So we knew this weather was coming. We knew that, you know, we're going to have this cold snap. So we tried to do everything, and we did well. But, you know, all these little things kind of pop up sometimes. I can't say we didn't freeze anything, because we did, but they were able to manage it and get it working. So it wasn't too bad of an impact. So there's just some pictures of the river. You can see some of the ice chunks there on the left. This was just this year. And then those were some of our barges out there. It's kind of and then a couple others. You know, that's the plant covered in snow. And then, you know, there's one of our employees all bundled up, fuel and a heater. And then, you know, we had some impressive ice formations. And you can even see at the cooling tower. So yeah, it's definitely sometimes it's a struggle, but our team did really well, and it's not over yet, I tell them. So we have to keep being diligent, because the cold, even though this week is kind of a break from the weather, it's going to get cold again. So, okay, byproduct sales. So we have, I asked Randy Kiefer, our director of fuels, to kind of give me some idea on these byproduct sales, because that's obviously one of our high revenue sources. So everyone knows we sell gypsum. That's our big hitter. We sell fly ash, and we sell bottom ash, but that's a pretty small market. So gypsum, as you can see, had a sharp increase in sales. And then fly ash, we really have worked hard on getting our quality or what we call LOI, loss of ignition, on our fly ash. They require a certain spec for us to sell it. So we have had to tune boilers. We've had to do a lot of work in order to get that. So we've finally mastered that, and get some new classifiers in our mills. And we got truck scales at each silo, so that's helped a lot. And yeah, so that is definitely becoming a hot commodity as well, the fly ash. So you can see here, this was a chart from 2021 to 2025, and there's a sharp increase in sales, and that's for all the combustion products that we sell. So, you know, we want to just keep selling those, because, like I said before, it avoids the landfill costs, you know, so that's good. Get them out of there. We don't want to be putting them in the landfill and taking up space that we need for the future. And yeah, it's giving us extra revenue. So we got to keep being diligent on the quality and controlling what we can control at the plant. This is something I wanted to put on here. I don't know if we've ever talked about this before, but we have what they call barge demurrage. And so we get fined if we can't unload a barge in a certain amount of time. So basically the time it takes to turn around a barge back to the barge company. So I know prior to transition, we had a lot of demurrage fees, very high, I mean in the hundreds of thousands per year. And so our Randy has worked with our coal handling team, and they've really got a way now to kind of get these barges unloaded in a safe, faster manner, making sure that they have real good communication. And I think that was just a big part of it was, just the communication of when the barges are coming in, when they need to go back. So over the last couple years, Randy sent me some stuff. We are down, I mean, we don't even really measure it now. We haven't had barge demurrage for the last couple years. And Randy even said that in the years, the 23 and 24, he said the only reason there's really demurrage is because that was due to our contract, because we have a dedicated barge line now. And he said really it should be very low. So that's something we're proud of, trying to get that, why pay these fees when we can just be more efficient and get these barges out of here. So we intend to keep the focus on that, because even though it has been zero for the last couple years, I said we can't stop. We can't take the focus off of that, because then, we could start drifting. So that's been looking good. And I don't think I have too many more. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the future, what's ahead. Well, us as leaders, we're trying to coach and model the behavior, utilizing the human performance, how do we get our employees better at what they do? How do we become a more high-performing organization at Cardinal? And we have a lot of environmental requirements, so that's going to be a lot of stuff, that we're doing, like just talked about those projects. Two-unit operation, we're trying to plan and adjust for that. And we also need to plan, check, and adjust our procedures for, how do we ensure reliability? We need to be here when the market needs us. So how do we ensure reliability, whether it's focusing more on preventative maintenance or focusing more on, equipment liabilities? How are we going to be more efficient at that? And then obviously continue to forecast our long-term budget. So we do forecast, 10-year budgets. And we have a lot of upcoming needs, so that's an ongoing struggle, and that's something we're still working on. So I think that's all I have. I think I have a lot of time left, but like I said, it's kind of just an overall update for Cardinal. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask on anything. That's all I had. Yes. For the new product?
No, the odd materials, the arsenic and that sort of thing.
Oh, okay. Well, so yeah, they do filter it out, and then we actually, we can't send that to the river. Normally, like they have a blowdown, but it does not go to the river or anything like that. So, after they filter it, I might need to check on that because I'm not sure, to be honest. I'll have to find out for you. I do not know. That's a great question. But I know it doesn't go to the river. I can tell you that. I don't want to tell you the wrong thing, though.
Yes. Yes, I have a question.
Okay, my question is, you said earlier in your comments that if a barge isn't unloaded in a certain amount of time, you'll get fined?
Yes.
What's a lot of time, and why is that?
Well, it has to do with the barge company, from my understanding. And usually if it's not unloaded within a few days. I don't know if it's like 3 days or 4 days. But I mean, we've had barges sit out there for a few days. But I would say between like 3 days and a week. I'd have to ask Randy, to be honest. But yeah, it's something with the barge line. And it's between their contract between us and the barge line. Because they want their barges back, so they can keep moving. They don't want us to be stagnant at Cardinal. Whoops.
I have a question. I'm just
Yes.
curious about the baskets. I forget how much they cost, $5 million or so. How old were they, and how long will they last? How long before they'll have to be replaced again?
So we had replaced them, I don't think they weren't very old. What we did, we had pulled the baskets. Well, let me tell you this. So a few years since I've been there, we've pulled the baskets, each individual basket, and cleaned them. And like I said, that worked for a little bit of time. And that was before the events that we think contributed to that. So that would have been before. I would have to go back and look to see. This current basket, and we actually got like a higher, kind of like a spray coating on them, so they should last, oh yeah, for definitely like, I mean, I would say, you know, at least 10 years or something, maybe longer, but I'll have to check to see when our last baskets were replaced, but I'm not sure. But we tried, before even replacing them, a lot of different things to delay replacing them, you know, so we wouldn't have to pay that fee.
That was my question. You know, how often are you going to have to change them?
Oh gosh, well, I hope not for a while.
Yeah, I think you only.
Yeah, no,
there.
well, we do
There was-
every GBIR outage, which is our large 50, 60 outages, we clean them. And we even do that some of our touch-up outages. We have something built in place, and our contractor, MPW, hooks into that, and then it basically rotates. It's a cleaner. So we do that during most touch-up and GBIR outages. And sometimes during the GBIRs, we could, if we start seeing like pluggage, we could acid wash again, you know, to get ahead of it. I think in this case what happened was when we lost the glycol heating, that over time it just it became like cement almost, you know, so it was really hard to remove, even with the acid wash.
Thank you.
First of all, Bethany, I want to tell you, you are very impressive, and it makes me curious, how do you manage the decisions you make? Do you have a board of engineers? How many employees do you have? I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, we have about, well, at Cardinal, we have about 262, 265 employees. We just brought on a few more in our operations team and coal handling. Yes, I have a very good team. They help me out a lot. So yeah, I have a great team. We have how we make decisions. We do have engineers at the plant. They play a lot into it. And usually we're say we have a problem. We have morning meetings every day, and usually if we call deeper dive. So we deeper dive the problem after the meeting. And, you know, a lot of times we'll talk to our prod ops team, or, you know, we'll talk to corporate to see, you know, hey, we might need to have an outage. We might, you know, we need to see when time's the best time to do it, or we look at the market to see, you know, oh, can we hang on to it, and, you know, kind of nurse it along until, like yesterday, we had, you know, a cold weather alert, and we had an issue going on, and we were trying to kind of nurse the unit along until we got out of that cold weather alert. But yeah, oh yeah, there's a big show. Yeah, that help. It's a lot of people that contribute, and a lot of subject matter experts. So yeah, we have a lot of people on site and at corporate that we rely on for assistance. Thank you though. Thanks for your comment.
Bethany, have we been approached possibly by the Department of Energy about rare earth element recovery from any of our resources, our fly ash or bottom ash?
I have not heard any. I don't know if anyone else has, but no, I have not been contacted or heard anything about that.
Craig's shaking his head no.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I might need to turn that over to Craig. Oh yeah.
Has there been any finalization to what's going to happen with Unit 3? Or is that just still all way up in the
Maybe I'll
air?
turn that over to Craig too. He said, yeah, hold the question. He'll be talking about that later on, so. Thanks, Craig.
It's not really a question. I want to give you a pat on the back. I have noticed that unit run times are increasing. Mm-hmm. So that tells me, as a lifelong mechanic of fixing things, that your team is Johnny on the spot. They're doing a good job.
Oh yeah, we have a great team. We do. We have our issues, but we work through them.
I have a question about the fish catcher that you
yeah.
talked about. Like, was there a lot of fish that we've been burning up, or is it like an unreasonable problem that
I have
we're
not
solving?
seen anything.
Okay, so we're not even catching them yet.
No, you know, so the fish, obviously, so it's warm, you know, in that canal, and the fish like it there. You know, we even have fishermen that want to come and like catch the fish in that area because it's warm. You know, we discharge the water, and that's also our intake. So, yeah, I mean, so that's across the board. Like all the plant, you know, a lot of these plants are having to put in these screens, and we knew it was coming. Yeah, I really can't say. I mean, I've been down there a lot. I haven't seen like a lot of fish just floating around or anything, but yeah, it's something that we're all required to put in. So as part of the, to saving the aquatic organisms, as they call it. So, but it's mainly fish. Yeah. Any others?
Last call? I don't see any.
Okay.
Bethany, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.